Good morning, and please put your hands together for Class 1. Those of you that are ringside, we've got our first class of juniors here in the ring, and we'll talk kind of through the market steers first, and then we'll come back and look at them for showmanship, or I'll tell you where we landed for showmanship. But the young man with the Hereford Mark steer here is going to be your class winner. I think as we study those top two anyway, I think we're pretty comparable in terms of muscle and pattern from the side. These are two good made steers, are high quality in terms of skeletal builds, and they come out here in a very structurally sound package as they travel the ring. I think what the biggest distinction is between the two is that the Hereford Mark steer is quite a bit further along just in terms of handle and body finish and condition. And so when we take that into account with everything else being pretty similar, that's what gives that steer the edge. So I congratulate you, young man, on getting that one fed. He handles very, very well and does a good job in here in the ring. And just in terms of eye appeal and presence, he's a deep-bodied steer with plenty of muscles. We get right behind him. I love the look of the yellow or the white steer there when we get him on the side. Here's one that patterns really well. He's great up through his front end. He's very level down his top and from his hooks to his pins. He's sound as he travels. One that for me, again, he's got plenty of muscle in him. We just need to get him a little further along in terms of feeding period to get around the Hereford steer. And I think if we do that, he probably does that pretty easily because I like some things about him. But one we just got to get a little further on in terms of condition there. But certainly those two steers will be blue ribbon steers. We'll bring both those steers back for the grand drive at the end of the junior division. The black steer that comes here in third, he'll be a red ribbon steer and one that just needs to be on feed a few more days. But I think we just need to get that one coming along a little harder. He's a little thin, if I'm being honest today. One that I think fundamentally he's got the practical pieces to make a good market steer down the road. This one just needs a couple extra 100 pounds. He's a bigger frame steer, probably needs to be 200 pounds heavier to really get where he needs to be. So we just need to take him a little further, get a little more condition on him, and combine that with the pieces that he's got, and then we can maybe move him up a spot or two potentially. So that's where we'll land on the market steers. Relative to showmanship, the young man with the Hereford steer will be your class winner. I think more consistency in terms of getting that one set up correctly. You've got his head up and ready to go. He gave you a little bit of trouble in terms of walking the ring, but that's just to be expected. I bet he's never seen a ring before, considering the interesting year we're in. But certainly a more consistent job of getting that one set up. And so I congratulate you there. The young lady here, we'll just make a couple comments to each. The young lady here with the white steer relative to showmanship, young lady, you do an excellent job of handling him and being around him. You're a very calm showman, out here, and I like that. You've got him clean, you've got him presented well. I think where we need to fix you just a little bit in terms of future showing ability is get that steer set up more correctly every single time. You work on him and then you almost settle for where he lands. And so make sure you get him there. Make sure you get him set up correct. If you're going to set him up with a profile view and one hind leg back just a bit further, make sure you do that consistently. Young man with the black steer relative to showmanship, just need a little more control over that guy. He wants to lead you instead of the other way around, and so we had a little trouble there. But again, that's something where you can't always control your partner when you get here, and certainly you've done a very, very good job of sticking with him and really a great job to start. So let's put our hands together for him one more time. We'll send Class 1 back.
Entering the ring, Ford Roden and Macy McLean.
Pretty comfortable place to start here with the young lady's red and white steer. I think one that just in terms of ring presence and being very attractive when that one first hit the ring, you definitely take notice. And I think when you actually study on that guy, he doesn't disappoint you. He's very productive and just practical in the way he's put together, but then he does that with a good show ring look and a show steer look. So we take that guy. He's made right structurally, or he's good enough anyway, I think. We could probably make him just a touch more flexible. He wants to get just ever so slightly straight, but we could flex him there just a little bit better. But in terms of being deep bodied, being big top, being big ended, when we get right behind him, this guy's loaded with muscle, and then we get our hands on him. And he handles extremely well. So, young lady, congratulations to you there. Done a very, very nice job with that red and white steer. The young man that's going to be here in second, here's a steer that, again, probably a little bigger framed and just needs a little more time on feed if we're going to really be studying on that one and figure out where his endpoint needs to be. I think he's got enough muscle as we study him there. He's a big frame, long bodied steer. He just needs to be further along and have a little more body condition on him. So the young lady will be your blue ribbon steer. We'll ask her back for the grand drive. The young man will be a red ribbon steer. Relative to showmanship, the young lady's going to be your class winner. I think very relaxed and very methodical in the way she shows that steer. Obviously, she spent a significant amount of time with him. He's fit very, very well. He's presented very, very well. He knows what his job is out here, and he does that very well, and so do you. So, congratulations to you there. The young man, I think just a little more time spent with that steer will help you. You have the fundamentals down and the basics down. You do a good job with him. He wants to be a little antsy on you, and that's just a part of getting in the ring for the first time, being on fresh shavings, and really just a little extra time spent with that guy, I think will help you. Have a little more control over his head. Make sure his head's cranked around. Make sure his head is up, and he's paying attention to what you're asking him to do, and that'll help you in further showmanship contests. So let's put our hands together for him one more time. And again, the young lady will come back for the grand drive.
Riley Dennis, Joseph Smith.
We'll have 2 blues and a red ribbon in this particular class. Let's put our hands together for these 3, if you would. Young ladies, black steer will be your class winner. I think just the combination, most complete one in here that combines the most amount of muscle and product in that particular frame with the best body condition and best handle, and we get our hands on him. So certainly a good job feeding on that one. You've presented him very well, and you've shown him very well. And I think just a pretty comfortable place to start in this particular class. The red steer that comes next, I think, young man, you've done a good job of feeding this one. He's where he needs to be and appropriate in terms of body fat. He's just not quite as muscular as he maybe needs to be to win this particular class. He's okay in the front half of his body, the amount of muscle he has coming up out of the top of his shoulder there. I think he's okay there. Even back as he progresses back in through his loin and top there. For me, he just kind of runs out of gas in the rear third of his body. We just need to open him up in his pin set, give him a little more quarter and stifle when we really study that guy and give him a little more product. But certainly one you've done a good job of showing and feeding. Round out the class of the black and white steer here, bigger framed, long bodied steer, and I like and appreciate his length and attractiveness in that regard, but one that just needs more time on feed. We've got to feed this one a little harder, get him further down the road relative to body fat to get him worked up any higher. So, with that said, again, 2 blues and a red will bring the black steer back for the champion drive. Relative to showmanship, the young lady is going to be your class winner. I think what it boils down to in this particular class is just your demeanor out here is very calm, and I like that. You're very controlled in what you're doing, methodical, but you've got the most control over that steer, and certainly that lends to a good showmanship showing out here when you get in this particular class. Young man, you've done a good job of sticking with that yellow steer. He wanted to give you just a little bit of fits as you were traveling the ring, but you didn't get frustrated with him, and you held together and show him very well. Young man, that rounds out and with the black steer there relative to showmanship. I like your level of confidence out here. You've been around that steer a little bit. You do a good job with him. I think we just need to dial up your intensity a little bit. Make sure you're getting his head up and getting him attentive and paying attention. Making sure you're not falling asleep every once in a while out here, but certainly a good job handling that steer. So let's put our hands together for him one more time.
For class 4 is Hudson Kudlak, Landon Loughlin, and Lindsay Story.
We'll give these three a round of applause if you would. Quite easily the highest quality class that I've had the opportunity to judge the last day and a half here, and to be quite honest, along with that, probably the three best showmen we've had out here. So makes my job a little more challenging, but it also makes it a lot of fun. So the young lady here in the purple shirt, she's going to be your class winner for the market steer side of things, and I think that this steer, what it boils down to in this class, because I think all these steers are fed well. They're very high quality, and like I said, this is hands down the best and hardest class we've seen here. What it boils down to with these three is which one has the most true, honest muscle, both volume, shape, and expression. And I think that's the young lady there in the purple shirt. I think when we really study that guy, especially the muscle coming out of the top of his shoulder, running down his backside there as he comes into his pins and down through his stifle and quarter. I think that's where he has the advantage. He's got more shape to his stifle. He's got more length across the plane of his stifle. I think there's just more true, honest muscle in that guy, and that's where he has the advantage in this particular class. The steer that comes here in second, to be quite honest with you, young lady, when I thought you when you hit the ring, I thought that was the one to beat. I like his depth of body. I like his just mass and productivity, and he just looks very practical in the way that one's put together. We probably need to roll him back in the angle to his shoulder just a little bit and clean him up in that regard, lengthen out his neck just a bit if we're going to make an ideal show steer out of him. But what concerns me the most with him is when we get right up on that guy, he's just a little bit flat bodied and doesn't have quite enough muscle up high to get around the steer that beats you. But sure, an awfully good one in that regard. The steer that rounds out the class, the young man steer again. In any other class, you probably win. In this particular class, you just got in a rough go. But here's one again that's just very basic in the way he's built, and I mean that in a good way. He's deep, he's soggy, he's long, he's muscular enough, he's fed well. One that just doesn't have quite as many bells and whistles as maybe the steer that wins, and just needs a little more true, honest muscle shape. But certainly awfully good steers in these three. We're going to give blue ribbons to all three of them. We'll bring the top two back as we ask them back for the grand drive. Relative to showmanship, I think it's a bit of a toss of a coin with these three, because I think they're very good. They have good control of these cattle out here. Your class winner is going to be the young man to my left here. He'll be your showmanship class winner. I think excellent control over that steer. You've got his head up in the right position all the time. You got his feet and legs set up all the time. And when that dude gets stopped and put in position, he rarely moves. So congratulations to you there. You've done a nice job of getting that one presented and brought and worked with. The young lady here, and you guys are in no particular order, but I'll just make a few comments here. Young lady there in the middle, again, you did a good job. The minute you hit the ring, you were on point. Need to dial up your intensity, probably just ever so slightly, and make sure that you're working those legs and getting them 100% of the time. So don't settle when you've got one that works for you and you got one that you spent some time with. Don't settle for just being okay. Make sure you're there 100% of the time. Okay. And the young lady that rounds out, that is on this end, you don't round out the class in showmanship by any means, but the young lady there in the purple shirt, a steer that's a little harder to show. He wants to kind of camp up underneath himself just a little bit, so make sure you're getting those feet and legs in the right position all the time. He's quite a bit taller than you, so get his head up and get him looking the way he needs to look 100% of the time. But you did an awfully good job, and obviously there's been a lot of time spent with that one at home. So let's put our hands together. Awfully competitive class, 3 blue ribbons. Let's congratulate them.
Class 5 is Caleb Decker and Taylor Rivera.
last class of juniors here with the two heaviest steers in the show. Let's put our hands together for them. They did a nice job out here. We're going to start the black steer. I think not only just a little more appropriate in weight, but I think he's truly the more muscular steer. If we're going to compare those two directly, I think just in terms of sheer product, there's more there, even though he weighs less. But I think there's just more sheer honest muscle there. So one that profiles very well. He's good in his lines, and one that gives us an eye-appealing look from the side in terms of making a show steer. One that handles well when we get our hands on him in terms of body condition. Young lady's red steer that's going to be second, and we're going to make both these steers blues. But the young lady's steer that's going to be second, one that I think just again very practical. He checks the boxes in terms of basics and fundamentals. This steer's pushing it in terms of how heavy he is. He's right at just a few pounds shy of 1,500 pounds. That's as big as we need to make these things. He's almost to the point where he's a little too far gone. He's very, very deep bodied. He's very heavy fronted, and it's starting to affect his structure a little bit as he travels the ring. He's getting so heavy, but certainly one you have fed on him. You've got him fat, and he's ready to roll. We just need to give that guy a little more muscle, clean him up a little bit to get him over the steer that beats you. Relative to showmanship, I think it's close. There's some give and take in those two steers. Those two showmen. The young lady is going to be your class winner. I think just a little more control over that steer. You've worked with him at home. He's very calm, and for a big steer not to throw you around, that's a good thing. The young man, you'll be in second hole in this particular class. I think when that steer settles in and kind of gets in his comfort zone, he's pretty good for you. But he wanted to be just a little more antsy out here and wanted to travel on you and not stand still quite as well. So certainly a nice set to round out the junior division. We'll ask the black steer back for the champion drive. Again, both blue ribbon steers. Let's give them a round of applause. Awesome set of novice showmen out here, and I said this in our little meeting earlier today, but I certainly want to just reiterate it that the quality of the showmen this year, the difference between last year and this year is just remarkable, and I appreciate that and congratulate you guys as showmen, but also the families and parents and grandparents and leaders and FFA advisors, everybody behind the scenes, making sure these kids get in the ring appropriately. I truly thank you because it's been a pleasure to work with these kids, and I know we got a little ways to go yet, but I just wanted to make sure we recognize that. With that said, the black and white steer is going to be your class winner. I think as we study lightweight steers, we got to make sure that they're fat enough, and this guy is. We've got to make sure they're muscular enough, and this guy is. We got to make sure they're sound enough, and he is that too. And again, we come back to finding the combination one in here, and I think he's that. He's got the most market ready look to him. He's quite easily the most muscular, particularly in the rear third of his body. Got the most muscle through his quarter and stifle, and he's the widest when we come to the ground relative to his base width. So certainly a good place to start. The young lady's red steer in the middle. A close second, I think. If he had a little more muscle there through his quarter and stifle, I think we could probably move him up. But certainly in this particular pair, we just need to get a little more honest muscle out of him. But he's fed very well, handles very well, and he's done an excellent job showing him. Young man to round out the class with the Hereford Mark steer. Here's one that I think just fundamentally he's in pretty good shape. He just needs to be a little further along. We need a little more feed in that one to give him a little more body condition. But certainly a nice group of steers. We're going to have 2 blues and a red in this particular class. We'll bring back the black steer for the grand drive. For showmanship, the young lady in the middle is going to be your class winner for showmanship. I think the most control and certainly you've spent some time with that steer. You've worked with him at home. You do the most consistent job of getting him set up, and I appreciate that very much. The young man in the blue shirt there to the left, great job showing this one. You've got great control over him. You're very calm out here, and I like your demeanor. We need to be a little more consistent in the way we're getting those legs and feet set up and where they're positioned all the time. And the young man with the black steer, I think just a little more time in the ring is going to do you an awful lot of good. You've obviously been around the steer. He's very comfortable out here. He works very well for you. You've got him gentle and tame out here. We just need a little more coaching relative to what we're supposed to do out here. A little more ring time, making sure you're using the stick where we need to and moving those legs and scratching his belly and all those things that come along with showing cattle. So certainly an awfully good job with the first class of novice kids. Let's give him a big round of applause. All right, our second and final class here for the day. This is the second class of novice showman, first years. I think an awfully good job out here for the three. Let's give them a round of applause and let them know we appreciate their hard work out here. The young lady with the red shirt there at the black and white steer is going to be your class winner, and I think it always comes back to me, and I said this several times yesterday, and it always comes back to me if I'm going to resort back if there's not one in a particular class that really jumps out and says this is the class winner. I'm going to resort back to find the one that's the most complete and combines the most good things. And I think that's the black and white steer that wins. I'll be real honest with you, young lady. This steer is not near muscular enough. Okay. He's not near muscular enough to be ideal. But what he is he's the only fat steer in here. Okay. And so you will be a blue ribbon steer, and we'll ask you to come back for the champion drive. But to be just real blunt, he's the fat one in here. And that combined with having enough muscle relative to his frame size and weight, I think you can be our class winner, and I can land on you pretty comfortably. You're also going to be our showmanship winner in this particular class. You've done an excellent job just in terms of control and keeping that guy where he needs to be. You pretty consistently set up feet and legs, and I appreciate that. Congratulate you there. The red steer that comes here in second, if I'm being real blunt, young man, I think if we fed on this one a little harder, then you win easily, okay? Because you've got the most muscular steer in this particular class. He's just not fat enough, okay? When we get my hands on him, there's just not enough body fat on this guy, body condition on this guy to allow him to beat that black steer in this particular case. And you're going to be the second and third place steers are going to be in the red ribbon category. I think if we make this guy fatter and we combine that with his muscle shape and the amount of product he has, then I think we're sitting in pretty good shape. But today he's just not quite there, and so we're going to land him in that second hole. Relative to showmanship, again, just some extra time in the ring, I think is going to do you a world of good. You do a great job of controlling him and keeping him where he needs to be when he wants to be there. These big steers, when they get a little bit pushy and start to push you around a little bit, it's awful hard to keep them there 100% of the time. But he's done pretty well for you. You've done a great job of sticking with him and not getting frustrated, and I certainly appreciate that. The black steer that rounds out the class, here's a big, deep-bodied steer, big frame steer. Quite honestly, this guy just needs to go down the road a little further, and we need a little more feed in this one to move him up any. He's not quite fat enough, and he's not quite muscular enough to get over the red steer in the second hole. So that's where we need to change that particular steer. Young man, you've done an excellent job with him out here. You've worked with him at home, and I can tell that. You're very calm in the way you show that steer and very collected, and I like that about you. We just need to make sure we're setting those feet and legs up 100% of the time, making sure we're getting them where they need to be, making sure that the hind leg on the judge's side is back just ever so slightly, or at least square. But certainly, again, some more time in the ring spent will certainly advance you in terms of showmanship ability. Great job by the set of novices. Great job in all the junior showmen here today. Let's put our hands together for them one more time. We'll round up your grand drive. All right, folks, give them a round of applause. This is your grand drive for your intermediate division here in the Market Steer Show, and I think a really nice set. There was, I don't know, maybe 25, 6, something like that of them. Good set of steers represented out here in the Champion Drive, and again, I think we're going to strive for finding the combination. We're going to strive for finding the most complete one. I think there's a pretty comfortable place to land, and then a couple that are in contention for reserve. But with that said, before I get off the mic, we got a small breeding show that we're going to wrap up after this. But before I get off the mic, put your hands together again for those folks that put the show on, the crew behind me here, my ringmen, everybody involved in making this show happen, including all you parents and 4-H leaders and everybody, grandparents, FFA advisors, everybody involved. So certainly a team effort, especially this year, and can't thank you guys enough for having me out and actually getting to stand in the cattle ring and look at live ones. So pretty cool. Put your hands together for them one more time. I'll go ahead and name your champion and reserve. a notch more muscle as we compare her to Ideal. But certainly one that is productive with a calf on her side. She'll make a nice project for the young man. The calf is an individual. I like this little baby heifer. She's not very old. She's one that I think's got some future to her and some grow. Obviously, and just a short period of her life. She's got a lot of growing to do and a lot of future ahead of her. But one that I think will make again a nice project for the young man. We judge them as a pair, and something I always try to look for when we judge these pairs is to hopefully, in terms of breeding decisions and what the young man's done with his cow, we always want to strive to make the next generation better, and I think there's some things about that heifer calf that are better than her mother, and so that's a good thing. And so certainly we've got a nice combo there in the cow calf pair. So with that said, we'll have first place entries for both the cow and the heifer. We'll have a first place entry for them as a cow calf pair, and then we'll go ahead and reward them a champion for the cow calf pair side of things relative to ribbons. That make sense? Young ladies on the fence, good to go? Okay, very good. Let's give them a round of applause. These two will be champions in their respective divisions. We got a crossbred and a Hereford. We just brought them in together to kind of make things more efficient. The crossbred heifer there up at the front, the black and white heifer, is certainly one that's awful fancy as we study her. Really, really well presented young lady, and I appreciate you bringing her in that way. One that's extra feminine and really long and extended up through her front end. She's great in terms of her top line. For this age, she's a big bodied heifer, and I like that. Really productive in her look. I think that one's gonna really make you a nice cow when we kind of project her out just a bit further. One that's awfully sound and good structured as she travels the ring. One that's pretty high quality. So congratulations to you there. You'll have the champion crossbred junior heifer there. With the young man that brings the Hereford here, here's a Hereford that's extra long bodied. She's extended up front. One that I think, just in terms of structural correctness and mobility as she travels the ring, she's in pretty good shape there. We could probably make her a little deeper flanked and just kind of open her up in the center third of her body if we're going to compare her to Ideal. But certainly one that I think has some pieces that'll make an awfully good project, an awfully good cow for the young man. So let's put our hands together for those two individuals. All right, so we've got two classes out here. The Red Angus female is in a class by herself, kind of, and then the two crossbreds are in a division or class by themselves. We'll talk about the crossbreds first. We talked to the young man's cow up there in front with the calf on her side about being very feminine, very extended, probably needing a notch more body, a notch more muscle as we compare her to Ideal. And certainly that would be the case as we bring her back in and compare her to the Hereford Mark heifer, soon to be a cow any day, that's right behind her. One that just in terms of body's got a little extra there. She's a little coarser up front, not quite as feminine, but one I think just has a little more productivity to her. So in that particular pair, the young lady with the Hereford marked cow there, or heifer, is going to be your class winner. And the young man with the red cow up front will be second in that particular class. As we evaluate the Red Angus heifer as an individual, one that I just really love in terms of femininity, one that's extra level down her top and from her hooks to her pins. She's sound as she travels the ring. One that's great bodied and really attractive from the side. So when that one goes ahead and calves in January, I think that one's going to lay down and make an awfully nice, good project for the young lady. So with that, relative to showmanship, we're going to kind of compare all three of these, and I think it's close. The young lady in the red shirt is going to be your showmanship winner. So let's put our hands together for her. An awfully good job out here. Great control over that heifer. Has just those little extra things that catch my eye in terms of being the judge. Getting the head up, keeping her attentive, getting her feet and legs in the correct position all the time. The young lady there in the middle with the Hereford marked heifer. You do an extra good job. You're probably the hardest working showman out here. That heifer tends to be a little heavy-headed, but you're always trying to keep her up and going. And she obviously works very, very well for you. So I appreciate and congratulate you there. Young man showing the cow. Young man, I'll tell you first and foremost, you're a pretty good cattle showman, but cows are just hard to show. That's all there is to it. They just want to do what they want to do, and you've got good control over her. You're doing a great job of trying to keep her set up. With a calf by her side, I'm surprised that she's acting as good as she is. So congratulations to you there. Good set to round out the breeding show. Let's put our hands together for them one more time. A champion Red Angus female here, and then we'll have the Hereford marked female be your champion in the crossbred cow division.